Long train journeys in the mid-70s seemed to take forever. This was especially the case for a young and attractive woman. She was going to be spending the weekend with some friends. Joan was heading to a pretty little village, and she was assured that she would like it. Her friends were supposed to be meeting her at the station that late winter evening. The papers said that they hadn't caught him yet. All the more reason for her to be extra careful. 3 girls had been assaulted on this train line in as many months, and in each case, it was a lot more than just assault. One girl nearly died, too. They said that there was nothing to worry about because they'd catch him sooner or later. However, it was Joan who was doing the travelling on this line that winter evening. The papers said they were looking for a man with short blonde hair. Joan had shoulder-length, straight, dark brown hair. She had an air of class about her and was well-groomed. The train stopped at a station. The next stop was where Joan was to get off, so not long to go. Joan picked up a discarded newspaper that had been left on a nearby bench seat in her small compartment. She was engrossed in it when someone entered the cabin and sat down opposite her. Joan glanced up from her paper to see a man of about 30 staring directly at her. He had short-cropped blonde hair. The attractive-looking man in the checked jacket sitting opposite Joan had a pleasant smile on his face. His pale blue eyes were piercing, almost hypnotic. He was well-dressed and had a confident and relaxed presence. He stopped staring at Joan and politely looked away. Joan hid behind her paper, glancing over it now and then, revealing her wide eyes. The blonde man rattled his fingers on the seat as if he was getting a bit agitated or impatient. It was just the 2 of them in the small cabin, sitting opposite each other on the bench seats. Joan glances up at the alarm chain above her. The notice says, "Alarm, pull the chain. Penalty for improper use, £25. Joan glances over to the blonde man. He smiles. Joan then realises she is cross-legged and her skirt has risen up at a bit. She sits herself upright, pulls her skirt down, and tucks her open beige jacket over her red blouse. The blonde man looks at her legs approvingly. Joan is now feeling very self-conscious, and she shifts around on her seat. The man pulls out a lighter as if he is some sort of a magician. It just appears in his hand. He stretches out his arm in front of himself, as if for dramatic effect. He rapidly flicks the flint of the disposable lighter, creating lots of sparks. Joan's eyes widen a bit as she locks onto the lighter. She looks to the man to see that he now has a big wooden pipe in his mouth, but he still has those gleaming eyes fixed upon her. Joan turns her head slowly and looks at the triangular red notice on the window. "No smoking," it states. Her concerned eyes are reflected in the window. The train speeds along through the darkness of the night, gently rocking their carriage. The lighter may have just been for dramatic effect, because the blonde man now produces a big box of Schiff Hamburg matches. The matchbox has a tall clipper ship on the label. He strikes a match on the side of the box. It immediately bursts into flames. He lights his pipe. Smoke temporarily engulfs his face. He tosses the match to the floor and holds his gaze on Joan. With his pipe in his mouth and both hands now free, the good-looking blonde man sits upright. Then, slowly and deliberately, he leans forward. He stretches his hand out towards her. Joan shrinks back into her seat. The blonde man picks up the newspaper that was next to Joan. She sighs in relief. His outstretched arm was not a threat. He was merely reaching for the reading material. He sits back and holds the Times over his face, occasionally peering over it to meet her eyes. The train carriage jerks and sways. Joan is thoughtful. She slowly reaches for her leather handbag while keeping an eye on the man behind the newspaper. She delicately puts the strap over her right shoulder and begins to make motions to get up and leave the small compartment. She stands up and then looks up at the luggage rack above her head where her big case is lying. She stretches her hand upward and touches the case handle. With a start, she feels his hand over hers. He stands behind her and he grabs the handle. She slowly sits back down. He hands her the case. She accepts it with a frown and dashes out of the compartment. He looks on with a serious expression on his face as he caresses his pipe. He is no longer smiling. Joan gets off the train at the next station. She walks over the platform, carrying her case, and into the station ticket office. She looks around. There is no one there to meet her. She stands in front of the ticket bureau window and looks inside. There is a lamp on, but no one in the office. A big wooden wall clock above her shows the time to be 10:45 p.m. Looking through the ticket office window again, she flinches at the sight of a wooden pipe sitting next to the ticket machine. It is silent all around, and the clock above her head ticks away. She feels a hand from behind, touching her shoulder. She jumps and lets out a subdued cry of fright. And then she spins around. "Miss Stevens?" "Yes," she answers warily. The grey-haired station master peers over his glasses at her. His face is friendly and helpful. He is in uniform, with crisp white shirt and dark tie, and he wears his official cap of authority. His moustache is greying, and his hair at the side is long and straggly, giving him a slightly dishevelled appearance. His voice is polite and clear as he looks over his gold-rimmed reading glasses at her. "Your friends called me," he says. "What?" She nervously flicks her hair back. Mrs. and Mrs. Hunt were on their way back to town and their car broke down, so they'll be delayed, and so they want you to go on and let yourself in. Joan looks a bit anxious. "The key's under the mat," he informs her. "This way, miss." He gently puts a hand on her back and guides her out of the station building and into the dimly lit forecourt. "Turn right out of the station, and it is the first house that you see," the man says helpfully. "About 1/4 mile," he says, then pauses. "Everything all right, miss?" He leans towards her and shows genuine concern as they both stand face to face in the dark forecourt. "Yes, thank you," she says with composure. Joan briskly walks off. A few seconds later, a tall blonde man, wearing a smart checked jacket over a light-coloured polo-necked jumper, walks through the station building and past the ticket office. He stands in the forecourt and looks around keenly, his eyes searching. "Just a minute," a voice of authority says. "Can I have your ticket, please?" the station master asks. The blonde man spins around to look at the source of the voice behind him. Part 4 of Train of Thought. Meanwhile, Joan is now out of the station and quickly walking uphill. She keeps glancing back towards the station lights. The road is dark, and she briskly walks on the tarmac, but not actually on the pavement itself. The blonde man is now emerging from the station and walking her way. Joan quickens her step while glancing back often. She crosses a road of traffic, dodging the speeding headlights. Her case is becoming heavy and cumbersome. Her face shows anxiety, as she is well aware that she is isolated and vulnerable in this dark, late evening light. She is not even familiar with the surroundings. She steps onto the pavement as a car approaches. The car headlights momentarily blind her. As the car sweeps by, she looks back at it to check the registration number on the rear plate. The car has now travelled another 50 yards or so, and its headlights illuminate the shadowy figure of a tall man behind her, walking along the pavement. There is an intense beauty in the vulnerability that shows in the eyes of Joan as her polished heels click-clack on the pavement in the stark, white, shadowy moonlight. And there is a strength in those eyes too, a resilience. Part 5 of the story, set in the mid-1970s. Joan reaches the detached house. She finds the Yale key under the doormat. She glances back at the path to check if there is anyone following her. She quickly puts the key into the lock on the door. In her haste, she pushes the door open, walks inside, and slams it shut. But she leaves the key, still in the lock, on the outside of the door. Her attention is now fully focused on surveying the dark and empty house she has just stepped into. Joan walks further into the dark house. Standing by a window, she looks out into the moonlit night. She sees that the big white gate across the track to the house is not closed properly. There is a gap where the fences should meet. The curtains are wide open on the window she looks through, but so far she has not put any lights on inside the house. She walks to the hall and flicks the light switch. Her eyes see into the house. She turns slightly to her left. Bracketed on the wall, just 2 feet away, are 2 solid axes, crossed over in an X shape. It suddenly occurs to Joan that she has left the Yale key in the lock on the outside of the door. She frowns. Then her eyes widen with the realization. She spins quickly and heads towards the front door. She opens the door and looks out. Standing outside, just a few feet away, is the blonde man from the train compartment. He has a gentle smile and nods his head in greeting. He stretches his hand out, and his palm is almost touching her face. Standing outside the house, just a few feet away, is the blonde-haired man from the train compartment. He has a gentle smile and nods his head in a greeting. He stretches out his hand. Joan bares her teeth and lets out a high-pitched scream of terror as the shadow of the blonde man's hand covers her face.